Okay. Okay, we're recording. So let's talk about this, what we were just talking about, like
Yeah.
the discipline and expectations and um, getting kids to a place where there's a mutual respect and contribution to the family. Like, how would you explain how you went from, because clearly that hasn't always been the case for you.
No. Yeah. No, absolutely not. Nope. And it's a work in progress. Let's
Right,
not
right.
go into like I have this totally figured out yet. I don't.
That's awesome. But what was the shift, right? Like, what did you do to get
You,
here? Because as much as I know you're still a work in progress, I've watched your journey for 4+ years,
yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
shift.
It is. It's a big shift, and it's been I don't know, it's just been really amazing to watch like what it is to build a relationship with your kids. And
Mhm.
I guess so when we're talking about like respect or discipline or boundaries, all of that for me, like how did I change it? How did I go from being a mom that yelled all the time, right? A mom that like truly couldn't stand being around my kids because that was the reality of it, right? Like they were truly more of like like it was an inconvenience. It was hard and it wasn't fun and I couldn't do it. Like I didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with them when they were little, really. And I think it was a humanness problem, right? Like I don't think that I saw them as individual people. I didn't see them as people that had like the same anxiety that I have. I didn't see them as people that got overwhelmed like I did or that felt hangry like I did. Like I just saw the behavior and I never ever questioned the root of the behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I saw the tantrum, I got talked back to, I heard them yelling at me, I saw them being defiant, I saw them messing up the house and not clean up. I saw them doing everything I asked them not to do, and I never ever asked myself why. Like, and so I think that was like my breakthrough. That was like, oh my gosh, like they feel like I feel. Like they
Mm,
have anxiety, they don't feel heard. They right? Like they don't feel valued. They don't feel like they belong. They feel tired.
yeah. Now, what do you think the shift was for you? Was it like a book you read? Was it just like an aha moment? Like, when was the big shift with this piece? Because I know the other thing for you is that this has been an evolution, right?
Right.
Like there's these different things, but this was a big shift that is it last year you would say this happened?
Yeah, I would say yes, last year. So, because we started homeschooling probably 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Something crazy that happens when you homeschool. And since so many people are at home with their kids right now, it's something that, like, when it comes to educating your kids or just being with your kids, like, homeschool is just an extension of parenting. Like that's what it came down to, right? Like it wasn't about the curriculum or about the academics or whatever. It really became an extension of my relationship with my kids. And so I think it came through like 2.5 years of really studying education, being on the front lines with my kids, homeschooling, and like trying not to be miserable every day, like just pivoting. This isn't working, throw it away. This isn't working, throw it away. Oh my God, this works. This is working for this kid when I do this, and I'm going to hold on to it and I'm going to put it in my box. And
Mm,
then I'm just going to try to remember to pull it out as often as I can remember. Like that's where it became like really a process of like, this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't work anymore. Let me retry this. I
yeah.
mean, I don't like it's hard. It is kind of hard.
I remember the time, I think we were standing in your kitchen and we were talking about the pause button.
Yeah.
It was probably a year, maybe a little longer. Um, and I feel like that was one of the first like big shifts that I saw in you, is you were like, the only thing I'm doing right now is exercising this pause button.
Yeah.
I'm developing my pause button. And I feel like it was through that
Yeah.
you then discovered how can I ask my children to respect me at the level that I want when I'm not respecting them at the same level? Do
Right.
you think that came out of that time?
I think that learning how to pause was my like the best thing that I could have learned how to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I could only pause for like 30 seconds. Sometimes I had to completely walk out of the room. There are moments with Brax to this day, not as often. I
It's
feel
for,
so, yeah, he's 4, that he will just be raging as a 4-year-old can, just so loud, and the tantrums and the kicking and the everything, where I literally, Brandy, still just sit in the middle of a room, like cross-legged. And like, I'll just close my eyes now. Like, I'll just sit and like just let him rage. And if he's like trying to be physical to me, then I'll hold him, or like I'll remove myself and go sit in another room. But literally I just go to just this very quiet place, like, and just let him, like, because here's what I just didn't realize. And especially the littler they are, the more they actually have to feel that feeling from beginning all the way to the end.
and we stop them.
Right.
Yeah.
And every time we stop them, though, we're initially like restarting it. And so parents will talk about like this, oh my, they did it for hours. My kids are just freaking out for hours, right?
Yeah.
But like, really, your kids will not freak out for more than 30 minutes. Like, and I've had the most, if you just sit
And just hold the space for them.
and just hold the space.
Yeah.
And here's the most important thing, like, not doing anything, like not reacting, doesn't mean that you're not parenting. Like, I think everybody sits in this expectation, in this societal conditioning, in this parenting shame, whatever we want to call it, of like, no, we need to stop it. Like, we need to control this situation because we're the parents, we're the boss, right? Like, that's our ego and our, like, we're the big person, so we should be in control here, right?
Yeah.
Like, so then be in control, which means like, don't react, because it's not our, like, we don't need to react. It's not our situation, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then I can just see that and like, oh, this isn't even about me.
Right. It typically isn't,
Mm-mm.
like, and so like with the toddlers or 4-year-olds, that age, you take something away, or it's time to be done with that thing, right? That triggers an emotion in them,
Right.
and they're freaking
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, us freaking out is like putting kerosene on the fire, right?
Yeah.
And now we're saying, don't freak out, but now I'm going to freak out. So I'm showing you to
Right.
freak out,
To
right?
freak out. Or even better, in that situation, we just give it back. We're like, crap, you're freaking out. Here it is. And that's my number one. I'm not calling that out as like pointy, because that is my number one. My kids are crazy. I have been a
Right.
appeaser.
Yes. And what does that do though too? It perpetuates the behavior.
It perpetuates it.
It shows them that this behavior gets this result. But if
Right.
you're consistent with the behavior, and then the result is mom stays calm and sits here and holds space for you.
Right. And it's okay. And guess what? I love you afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
I've got open, like, I'll hug you. Like, come, like, even my 12-year-old now, when she does, like, she'll slam the door, say something super disrespectful, whatever. Okay, do you want to hug now? Like, are you done with that? I know, like, right now, what I tell Maddie is like, I know you don't mean that. Because they don't. Like, how many times do I say something that I don't mean, like, to my husband, right?
Or
Like, I
to
do it
kids.
all the time.
Yeah.
Our kids are literally just human beings. And so, like, when I can tap into the humanness of my kids, then I can be like, oh, here's space for that, for you to do that. Because I'm just figuring out how to hold space for myself. And so I can't expect them to know how to do that, you know?
That's a really interesting piece to this mom journey,
Yeah.
is that I feel like I tend to hold them to a higher standard than I hold myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Like
do with everything, though.
yeah,
Like, look at
right.
education. We expect them to sit in desks for 7 hours a day. We would never. We expect them to do homework. We would nobody brings their work home after 9-hour day. Like, it's like when they're not getting paid for it. You know what I mean? Like, we hold kids to these ridiculous standards all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why they're angry and they get
Yeah.
overwhelmed.
Oh, right. And right. And then that's the thing is, it's like the overwhelm, the anxiety, and these things that we deal with on our
Mhm.
own. Our kids have more pressure and more things going on than we ever have,
Right.
especially, when they're at school. Now let's talk about Maddie for a second. Cause I have Huli at the similar age. And, would you say that it's a similar thing that you're doing for her with holding space when she has, I mean, cause they're just bigger temper tantrums, right? The door
Yeah.
slamming, it's just morphs over time. I mean, is
Yeah.
it a similar thing that you do?
Yeah. I mean, here's what I've known. So I read this amazing book, Mona Hook, Beyond Behaviors.
Mm.
And it talks about the science. Another really good one is Whole Brain Child,
Oh
right?
yes. That's a great book.
That's
Yeah.
a great book. So those are great books because what it does is it's going to tell you what your child's brain at the age that your child is actually going through. And
Yes.
what Mona talks about is when kids get to like red, right? She has red, yellow, and green. And when our kids are in this confrontation, like behavior, when they're slamming doors, when they're yelling, when they're crossing a line and they know that they're crossing a line, they're literally just, it's like a red card. They don't even see. They're not thinking. The neurons are
The
firing off.
amygdala, right? They're in their
Right.
lizard brain.
It's just like, they're like, what? Like, they don't even know. So honestly, taking something away, punishing, having a consequence, bribing, whatever I'm going to do, shaming, that's another parenting tactic that I'm pretty,
I'll do that. Yeah.
right? So shaming, guilting, bribing, disciplining, consequences, all that stuff that we do, it's doing zero in that
In
moment.
that moment when they're
In that moment, it is doing zero in that moment. Zero. You like, there is no
Do you believe
reason.
it's actually fueling the fire?
I do. I believe
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm
gasoline. I believe that it takes it up and not, oh, fine, you're going to take that away. Well, I don't freaking care. You're whatever, right? Like you just you feed off of each other. What we do instead is, okay, we'll talk about it in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about it with you at 5:00. Right. And then we discuss what happened, like what unraveled there, what was unacceptable behavior.
You've said
Because
it.
you can be mad in my
Yes.
house and you can be angry in my house and you can be frustrated and overwhelmed and you can be all those things, but there's still a level of respect
Yeah.
I give you as a human and then you give back to me.
As a
And so
human.
there's consequences. Boom. Right. And that can be whatever in anybody's household. Like I really try not to tell people how to use their consequences. And like we use screen time,
That's what we do.
chores,
Money,
whatever.
chores. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever people feel comfortable using, but those are also predetermined into our house. Like this isn't a free for all.
Yeah, that we just had this conversation in the group recently about and you guys were one of the catalysts for us doing the system that we do with money.
Yeah.
That that part of it, and then screen time as well, and the conversation is had beforehand, like this is the standard in our home, and the thing that I love that we're talking about here is that doesn't mean that we're perfect all the time. It doesn't mean that we don't have a bad day,
No,
but
and it doesn't mean that you don't have to revisit that like regularly. It doesn't,
right.
right? Like
It's leadership casting the vision, right? It's
right.
my job to set the expectations, cast the vision, and cast the why in our home, right? Our family values and mission and stuff. You said something you say something in posts often, but you talk about how you guys are a family with big feelings and you have a lot of conversations. There's a lot of talking that goes on.
Yeah. To tuck my kids in at night, I kid you not, Brandy, Aaron makes fun of me, but this is like to tuck my kids in every night. Like I dedicate like 15 minutes to each girl because they just, at the end of the night, like right. And it's like, it's prayer. Like I go into pray and then the girls it's just their release of the day, like all their big feelings, how they're feeling, what's going on, why they're feeling that way, why a sibling did this, how that made them feel. When dad said this, it made me feel this. We process all of that. Like we do a great thing for families that don't do a lot of that is like rosebud thorn. That's what Izzy does because she's little and she doesn't like, she's pretty emotionally intelligent for a 9-year-old, but she's 9. And so we do rosebud thorn. So what was the highlight? What was something new? And what was the low point? And then you can dig into like, why was that a low point? Why was that the high point? How can we get more, roses, right? And less thorns. So I don't know, like it's a lot of talking.
Yeah. It's
Exhausting.
interesting that is when it is
It's
right.
exhausting.
It is exhausting. I think that's the hard part too, is,
Yeah.
and we're the same. Like, I mean, clearly, I mean, we're best friends. We do a lot of the same things. And, you know, that nighttime talking with the girls is one of the most, like, it makes me tear up. It's one of the most sacred times that I have with them. It's the realest, the most deep conversations when it's not like intense still, right? Like sometimes when there's like a fight and you're going in the moment and you're like sitting with somebody, their amygdala is still off and you're still dealing with that crazy person, right? And those conversations, those aren't really deep conversations.
No.
That moment when you like come in at night, it's like this, especially if you start with prayer, right? Like it creates.
And that's usually when I get like they'll apologize. Like, God, Mom, I'm so sorry. That wasn't nice. Like, I wasn't being nice to you today. And that's when I get to say like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I totally raised my voice, or I was super sarcastic. I shouldn't have talked to you like that because that's me. Right. And so like, sometimes it is like bedtime. We just hash out the day, but in like a really kind way.
To it though.
Yeah.
You know,
it's time.
And
you
it still is exhausting, right?
It is exhausting.
But if like being intentional about carving out that time for it, I would say that has been one of the biggest shifts for us, me with the girl, is that time. Because one of the things that you just said is that's so powerful is this isn't about that we just let our kids do anything, right? Like I was just talking about how yesterday I yelled at the kids for one of the first times in a really long time, right? But it wasn't like yelling at them in the heat of the moment. It was, and I started fairly calm but firm. It doesn't mean that I'm not still the mom, right? I can still be firm. You're disrespecting me right now. This is a consistent thing that I've kindly brought up to you many times. This has to shift. Right. And so, but having that conversation with them while they were both calm, they weren't expecting it. It wasn't in a heated moment. The message was received.
But if I mean business.
Yes. But if I came at them when they were like in the moment doing it and I triggered them and then we're triggered and we're like, they wouldn't have heard me.
No. And sometimes we have to just go in and shut it down before all of that. Like sometimes it is like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not having a 90-minute conversation about why your sister did whatever she did. And now I have to go to both rooms and no, I'm just shutting it down now. The end, right? Before it escalates.
Right. There is some of that, but I think the key piece to what you have done over the past few years is that human piece where you have developed individual relationships with them where you are one of their people, you know, and I think that's the piece that, yes, it can be exhausting, but the fruits of it are so rich that they really are, you know.
I mean, I went from having kids that would like every day. I mean, every single day, all 3 to 4 of my kids were freaking out about something, just tears. They were fighting, they were bickering. There was like zero peace in my house. And I have maybe, I mean, I call them incidences now, but like 3 or 4 a week. Like it's just, and with 4 kids and we already homeschool, my kids are home all day. Like there is peace in my house and it's so worth all that work. Let's
segue into something else that I think is perfect timing right here is your rhythms. You know, like you have, I mean, you're the 5-hour school week, right? So it's not like you're sitting 7 hours a day at a table with your kids, homeschooling them. And you have standards of health for them. You know, you have expectations about what the values are in your family. explain a little bit about your rhythms and how you keep it. And again, I know it's not perfect, right?
Right. No.
Yeah, I know that. But
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, the kids, so in our situation, and because we've been doing this for a little while, like the kids have had complete freedom to kind of, we have found and mapped out the times of the day where they feel the most productive, when they feel the most like learning. And honestly, each of my kids are a little bit different. But overall, like in the morning, like my kids are usually all up by 8:30. I mean, 8:30 at the latest. All my kids are out of bed, which means by 9:30, they're usually showered, dressed, fed, and already working on something that they've chosen, right? Like the night before, before bed, like, what are you guys working on tomorrow? What's the plan? That's just like how we end the day, is like, how are we going to start tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and so, we have 3 days a week is exercising. Typically they do more than that, but they'll do like yoga online, they run on the treadmill, whatever. I just carve out 45 minutes a day of reading to them, where we just are all sitting together and reading. Even Brax has started sitting down because I let him color and I let him do stuff. So I'll sit. I'm reading Harry Potter right now. We read the Tuttle Twins and we have a devotion. So every day we're doing that. Like that's a very grounding part of our rhythm because we're all together in that. And then throughout the day, like usually by noon, learning, like anything that's like intentional learning is done. Like we have a no screen policy until 11 right now as it is,
Mm-hmm.
because just our brains are so fresh in the mornings that I just want to utilize that.
Yeah.
And then come that 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock lunchtime, we've typically read, written, done math, done history, done whatever was on the schedule. And so then the rest of our day is sharing lunch together. I'm doing this stuff, or I'm creating content, or I'm doing laundry or catching up. And the kids are creating, playing, using their screen time, doing chores, whatever. So
Yeah.
that's like, but it's
Yeah.
just like life. The days actually go by really fast right now. It's really like our days. I feel like I don't have enough time in my days. So like it seems to work out.
So then let's segue into that next part, which is self-care. You have one of the most consistent self-care when it comes to your food, your movement, your devotional, your reading. Like
Yeah.
you continue to educate yourself. Like where's that in there? How do you make that happen?
I think I'm like you in the fact that I realized I have no choice. Like I
Yes.
have zero choice. It's not because I was like, oh, I just love myself so much, I'm going to take care of myself. Like that is not what happened.
I'm a lunatic if I eat bad.
Right. Like if
Oh, I
I
am.
am not
Yeah.
working out, like someone wants to strangle me because I'm impossible. Like if I'm eating like garbage, I'm totally neurotic. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
me too.
So I'm an early riser. I know that that's not a good answer for everybody, but like my mornings are super sacred, super sacred. I like mornings, like I need to be caffeinated before they wake up. I like to put content out into the world for 5 hour school week to encourage people. And so I typically do that in the mornings. And so that's really important to me that I have time for my community. Then I read in the mornings. So mornings are super sacred, but also
That when
like
you work out too.
I work out. Sometimes I work out in the morning and sometimes I'll work out afternoon, just
Mhm.
because like afternoon, like my kids are kind of on their own, like they self-direct now. And so like sometimes I'll sit down and I'll be doing a puzzle with them, or I'll be doing Legos, or they'll be in the kitchen with me. But really like during this time, like it's 3 o'clock in Texas right now. And like my kids are doing stuff, like they don't need
Yeah.
me right now.
Even
So
like even Brax is now.
yeah, that I did a video on that today of how I've gotten Brax to
Oh, did you?
self-direct. Yeah, because it's really easy, and all kids, like all ages, it just is a process. It's just like the whole holding space for them. Like you're going to need to do it in small increments.
Mm-hmm.
Sit down with them, start the thing with them, stand up, walk away from them.
Yep.
right? Some kids will start off and they can handle it, you being gone for 1 minute. Some kids you can walk away for 5 minutes, right? Without call, mom, how do I do this? Mom, I don't know what to do now. Mom, right? Just do like engage, walk away, engage, walk away, engage, walk away. Like I've done that so many times with the girls that I realized like, why am I not doing that with Brax? And so I actually fill him up first. And so like I
Mhm.
engage with Brax, I walk away. He'll usually need me again. So like I set up like this hour where that 9 to 10 is usually me getting Brax in his own rhythm for the day, because I was letting him watch too much screen time, honestly. Like as
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
so
Be cool.
now,
Yeah.
right, it's just so much. But
Yeah.
now we're like, I don't know, we're like almost 6 months in of me doing this. And now Brax needs like 15 minutes of my time. Like he could care less about me, actually. Like he'll just play, okay, screen break, TV's off in our house, remotes go up high. Everybody finds something to do, including him. So, and it works. It literally worked.
So one of the things we just talked about on the call today. So I stopped working out when I got sick. And
Oh,
working
yeah.
out is not one of my major self-care things.
Right.
Mine is more reading. I need no sensory time. Like I
Yep.
can't have like noise going on for a period of time every day. That's probably your mornings, right? I take
Yep.
baths a lot. Uh,
Yep.
and so food is a big one for me. If I eat
Yep.
bad for a couple of days, I am like cuckoo for Cocoa
Yep.
Puffs. Anxiety, sadness, irritability, all that.
All of it.
you know,
Yep.
but back, it's been 2 weeks. It was like on the new moon or something, full moon. I don't remember, but I was like setting my intentions, and my health intention was to walk for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And the first couple of days you're like, fine, I'm walking, right? And then there's a couple of days that are uncomfortable, especially when it starts raining. you know
Yeah.
True story. And it's like pushing through that, even for myself, right? It's taking, and now I'm on like day 15 and I'm going, but now I'm craving it. I'm going strong. It's the same thing like what you're talking about with
Yeah.
Brax. And
Yeah.
so what I love about this is it brings it right back to what you started with. We are human.
We're
And
just human. Yeah.
human, to get into patterns, it takes
Yep.
small incremental steps, and then it starts to compound.
Yep.
And then your body's feeling better, right? Then he's able to sit longer, and then you're able to hold space longer. Like all of these things, it's that compound effect of consistent healthy habits over time transform your life,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. Yes,
cool.
absolutely. And
It's
it's not,
cool.
and what's really kind of cool right now about everybody being at home with their kids. Like, I think this is so cool because I get super uncomfortable practicing that kind of parenting in public. Honestly, like
Yes,
letting my kids scream in
I agree with
public.
you.
I
You know,
I struggle. Like Brax will cry in the store and I'm like, "Yes, take the toy. Take the toy. Stop crying in the
it's
store.
whatever.
Everyone's looking at me. Oh my god, nobody look. The toddler is not freaking out." Right?
Yes.
So, this is a
Go
really cool
home.
time because you're just
Right.
in your home and like let your kids scream, let your kids be bored, let your kids get a little bit uncomfortable because they're allowed, because they're in the comfort of your own home, right? And don't get mad about it. Like don't take it personal. Like hug them after and move on. Like here's the, okay, I just have to say this is one of the biggest ones recently that Maddie called me out on, because I said, I tell them all the time, like, you guys are taking things too personal. Like, you're blowing this out of proportion. Like, you're taking a feeling and you're like owning that feeling and making it like that feeling everything. Well, the girls were kind of starting to do this thing where they're like, oh my God, mom's being so crazy, isn't she? Like, kind of talking
About
about me. And I started to take it very personal, like very like,
what you're
oh my
feeling.
God, you guys are really hurting my feelings and da da da. And Maddie goes, Mom, like, we're not like, essentially, Mom, you're making a way bigger deal about this than what it is. Like, that's not what we were saying. That's not the way that we meant it. You are taking a feeling that you're having and you're turning it into something that it's not. And it was like that realization of like, oh my God, this works over time if you like just hold space and you model it over and over and over again. And so I don't know, it's just like totally working out.
Wow. I think that this piece of consistency, and it's not perfection. Right?
No.
And that's one of the things that I love so much about your message and how you help encourage the world is you're not saying, oh, you have to be perfect every day, right? We all fall flat on our faces all the time.
Yeah.
It's just finding the things that matter. And if discipline is something that you're struggling with, learn to sit and hold space, right?
Yeah.
If getting your kid to self-direct while you're home with them is something that you're struggling with, get into self-directing as a habit.
Yeah.
Right? Find the thing. If it's exercise, right? Find the thing.
Find the thing.
And be consistent with it. And God, I love this part about making our kids human.
It is. It's just
I
like,
needed that today.
it's just so huge. It changes everything for
really
me
does.
because then I'm just able to go like, oh, I know what that feels like. Like embarrassment. Oh my God. Do you know how many behavior, like anger and outbursts and tantrums come from embarrassment? And then when we shame our kids and all of that, like how we are compounding that and actually making it so much worse. Like just pause. Like there literally doesn't need to be words. And that's so hard for some of us because some of us feel like our words are the most important things that could be
Huli
ever
will
heard.
say to me now, Mom, I just need you to listen. Because that's me. I mean, I am constantly like, I've got the whatever, let me give you this thing I read or the podcast I listened to. Frick, I'm so bad. As soon as she's got a problem, I got a freaking solution, you know? And here's the other thing about what you're saying is so poignant. Think about all of the distress going on inside of our kids right now, this time of unknown, right? If we have behavior things coming up right now, and again, giving grace and holding space does not mean that you allow, disrespectful behavior and you don't then have a conversation about it once they're calm. It doesn't mean that, but to think about what's going on inside of us, right?
Yeah.
Same things are going on inside of them. And we all handle these things different. One of the things that we did, I think it was last month in the group, was Enneagrams. We have a woman in the group that's Harper's her name. She's really, really smart with the Enneagram. And we all looked at all of these different, personality traits that we lead with and that things that motivate us. That's the other part that we have to realize about our kids. What motivates and inspires and right works for one kid, Huli and Natalie. I mean, they couldn't.
Oh my God.
They couldn't be more different. And I only have two. You've got four.
I know, but you have two polar opposites. Like you literally have two polar opposites.
I really do. I just talked about it last month, or beginning of this month. This is our parenting month. And Natalie is motivated by money and she's motivated by things. And so I have a pair of AirPods. Huli has a pair of AirPods. She wanted AirPods so bad. So she not only had to save up her allowance, but she had to do other things, right? To get this kid's behavior while she's trying to earn stuff is like off the charts. Mom, can I help with that? Mom, can I look at this? Can I read another book this month? Like she's all like this. Huli is like, nah.
Whatever. I don't care.
Whatever. But if I'm like, hey, you know what? Do you think we could work on earning? Like what would work for you? And she'd be like, oh, how about a mom and daughter day? Like, would you take me shopping? I'd love to go get some new Vans or whatever. Like she did it like for a pair of Vans,
right?
And it's like very different motivation.
It's very different.
Very, very. Huli wants one-on-one time. She wants to be able to talk. Natalie,
well, it's that. It's asking them, right? Like how long did we go without even asking our kids, like, what do you actually want? Like, what do you actually like? What actually? Izzy will now tell me, like, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. Like when you use that word, like there's words now that they're starting to recognize, like make them feel a certain way. And they're like, well, when you used that word, it made me think that you were saying I was stupid. Or when you used that word, it made me feel like you were saying like I wasn't trying or whatever. And I was like, oh, but that's not what I was saying. Right. And so it's just like, that is why communication and not freaking out, like it's just understanding what they're hearing, knowing their love languages, like all of that stuff is, I mean, it's a lot. It is so much. We have our hands so full.
Right, but it's like if our families, because what you're talking about right here, this is so like how Lance and I talk about couples and marriage. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. I mean, think about
Right.
having it right, a tone with your partner. Part of the
Right.
time, it's not even about them. Part of the time, there's an underlying issue that they've been irritating you about something else for a couple of days, and you just haven't had that conversation, right, out of the heat of the moment,
Right. Yes.
iron that issue out, right? It's
Right.
the same thing with our kids. But these are the relationships. This is where we want to be putting the hard work in,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with the things that matter at the end of the day. Right now, we're in a global pandemic. And what do we all want? We want our families to be safe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity, some of us, a lot of us have an opportunity to take this time and deepen our relationships with each other.
Right. And fix the things. Like, we don't have to accept mediocrity in our family. Like, we don't have to just be like, oh, that's just the way that it is, or that's just how my kid is, or I'm just impatient. So that's a cop out. Like, sorry, I'm just gonna say that when you're like, well, I'm not patient enough to do this, or I'm not, neither was I, right? Like, I used that
I'm
forever.
a yeller.
I'm a yeller, and I was a spanker, like, honestly. So, like, I'm just gonna flat out say, like, I had horrific anger problems, and it was a cop out. Like, it is hard to hold space for other people, especially when you don't know how to hold space for yourself. And so that's why it's like, treat yourself like a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how I treat Brandy, like how we treat each other, like how, like, am I as good to myself as I am to my friends? Am I holding space for my own feelings? Am I letting myself go through that? And then it flows downhill into our children. And like, that's how it works. But that's like, we have to do the work for them to see what it looks like.
And that's exactly it. That's like the thing with the yelling. I mean,
Yeah.
Natalie's a yeller. You know,
Yeah.
she has the temper. She will lose her mind. And I had this moment, you know, as I started, and it's interesting. And I knew what, like, part of it was me because I've been modeling it for years, right? I'm a yeller. What I actually now at 118 days, I would not call myself a yelling mom anymore.
Isn't that
Right?
crazy?
And I have
Yeah.
a couple of times over the last 118 days, but that whole line of I'm an impatient mom that yells,
Yeah.
it's possible to not be anymore. And guess who doesn't do it so much anymore?
Right.
Natalie.
No, that's, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it starts with us. It's a modeling. It's
It is.
modeling
It
behavior.
is. It's all modeling. It all goes downhill. But it's so worth it because of that, because they change and they are picking up stuff. Like, I'm 38 years old and I'm just figuring so much of this out. And I get so frustrated, honestly, that I'm just figuring this out. And our kids are going to be so much better off, and our grandkids are going to reap the rewards of that. You know what I mean? Like, I just think
Generational.
generationally,
Yes.
this is the work that we do for
Yeah.
generations. Like, this isn't a selfish, just for me moment. This is to
It's
shape.
way bigger than that.
Yeah.
Nate says that line to the girls all the time, and I think it's so beautiful. Anytime they're like really struggling with something, or it's like a behavior thing, it comes out a lot with growth mindset and emotional intelligence type things. And he will look at him and say, I am 47 years old and I am just learning this.
Yep.
Have grace for yourself.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, what a powerful thing to hear from your dad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 47 years old and I'm just learning this.
Yeah.
Half a century old, you know, and you're 8.
And you're 8, so it's okay. Exactly.
Okay.
And
yeah,
and to be proud of them. You know, I know we're probably running out of time, but like,
we're fine.
it's also about like, it's also about acknowledging it, like acknowledging progress and really being so dang proud of them. Like, I see that you're trying, right? Like, okay, here's something so cool though. I started telling my kids, I see that you're trying so hard. My kids tell me all the time, I see that you're trying so hard, Mom.
Oh,
After a really trying interaction that I'll have with them now, that I don't lose my temper,
you're up. That feels
right?
so
But like, now, like, we'll have like those moments where they can just see that I'm just breathing, and I'm just letting it pass, and I'm letting it pass. And they will come up to me afterwards and be like, you did really good there.
Oh,
What?
it makes me cry.
No, but that's amazing. Like, it's
So
like,
amazing.
oh, it's so, and so it's like, it's that like, and it took me a long time to get there. Like, don't be frustrated if you don't get that in the first month. Like, it has taken a
Oh,
lot of work to
yeah.
get there, but they know, and they work just as hard as we work because they feel the difference that it makes in
One
a
of the
house.
things that you do though that I think is incredibly powerful and created that is that you tell them what you're working on.
Yeah, I
You
do.
do. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard you. I know you do. You say, I am working on this right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I'm working on pausing. I'm working on not yelling. I'm working on listening more. I'm working, right?
Yeah, it's
You
really
guys,
important. I tell them all the time, like, it's really important to me that you feel like I'm respecting you, and that like
yeah,
that I love you unconditionally. And so for you to feel that way, I know I need to work on this.
yes.
But then when we talk, so because they know what I'm working on, like, what are you guys working on? Right? Like,
Mhm.
that's just how it's become really cool. It's become really cool now that we've been doing it for a while, because I'm noticing big things that are having huge impacts on our house.
There's another thing that you and I agree on that has some controversy, and it's being, yeah, there's a few of them, but
Oh.
that's a good one. Being friends with your kids. This is what this reminds me of.
Mm,
Is my chickens. But they are laying eggs during this pandemic, so I'm not going to complain.
nice. Nice.
But being friends with them, you know,
Yeah.
when you said that piece about genuinely celebrating their wins, that's what came up for me. For a long time, I remember not feeling genuinely excited about their wins that weren't like society wins.
Right.
You know what I
Or
mean?
that I didn't create.
Or that I didn't create, right?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
remember like Huli was so smart when she was in regular school, right? She was
Yeah.
always the head of the class and she could read really early. And I remember I was like so proud, and I would get these feelings of proud. And the more I got to know them and the more I became friends with them, the more I felt genuinely to where they could feel my honesty about how proud I am of them, of the little things that actually matter to them that no one
Yeah.
else would give a shit
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
truly, like nobody else would care. And just these little wins and the little things like Natalie keeping her room clean. That's not
Yeah.
easy for that kid. Right?
Right.
I would love if somebody would go help me turn one of those chickens off. Let's see if I can find
That's
him.
amazing.
Can you turn off the chickens?
Oh, I can hear him. I can hear him. That's so
You
funny.
know? Yeah, they're like having a party out there. Someone just laid, and it's like, yeah,
Woohoo! Go
woohoo!
mama! Go
Oh
mama!
gosh, yeah. But that piece right there is I remember you and I bonding over this
Yeah.
before, where it's like, no, it's okay to be friends with our kids.
Well, here's a mind shift that like really helped me. We're on the same team.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, why didn't anyone tell me that when I was leaving the hospital? Like, this is not me against this little person. We are supposed to be doing this together,
Yes.
right? And so,
Forever. Right? For a
forever.
lifetime. Yes.
Yeah.
This
The
is a
same
long
team.
game.
I am cheering you on, right? They are cheering me on. Like, I want them to succeed. They want me to succeed. That's how this works. This
Yeah.
isn't power, control, bigger, smaller. Like, when you can get rid of all of that, then it gets so much easier to parent. I think that stigma and those lies and like all of that stuff that I walked into, I don't know if everybody walks into parenting with that, but I know a
I
lot
did.
of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people walk into parenting with like, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, all this stuff. When you can get rid of that and go, this is my teammate,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is my, like, I'm cheering, I want this person to succeed because if they succeed, I succeed, right?
Yeah.
And then when you can teach your kid to feel that way about you,
And each
parenting,
other.
yeah,
That's
parenting
the
is
next level.
fun. Like, you can actually enjoy doing this. Like, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Everybody that's like, I hate parenting, this is a nightmare, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just because like it's like it's a boss, like it's an employer employee thing. And that sucks. Like being an employer, owning a business, like that's not actually fun. Like management isn't fun.
Right, right. And we still are the leaders. Like I talked about
Right.
today, where part of that meltdown that I had yesterday was a lack of leadership on my part, a
I
lack
get
of
that. Yeah.
setting the expectation for
Yeah.
this season that we're in right now, right?
Yeah.
And now we're all home again, and these things that I was doing, this now has to look different. Our roles have to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
And I didn't set that expectation. I didn't have that
Right.
conversation with them. And then and then I melt down about it because I didn't have the conversation.
Right.
But that whole part about being on the same team, it's like, one of the things that I've recently started celebrating, like for Huli, for example, she's really into learning TikTok dances. And
Yeah.
some of them are incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
they
No,
are.
it is. It's hard to do
It's
it.
hard to
Yeah.
do. And
I
she's
totally agree.
learning these tough ones. And I remember in the beginning, I was like, God, this thing's so annoying. Like this TikTok, like she'll walk around moving her arms around. And I'm like, this is so annoying. And I'm like, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop. But wait a minute. This is something she's into right now. And I believe that I need to meet my kids where they are. And they're allowed to have their autonomy with I don't dictate what they like, right? It's like Huli with makeup, and that's another controversial topic with Huli, is that I let her wear makeup. And some people are like, you can't let kids wear makeup for whatever reasons, right? I don't know. I don't really know the reasons why, but I know it's a thing. And I know I have experienced judgment about it in a few different ways. But it's an art for her, and she loves to improve, and she loves to try different things and whatever else. And she loves aesthetics. And I've had this shift with her of celebrating, like she'll now come to me and show me her TikTok dances. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that. And I genuinely feel it. But in the beginning, when I found it to be an annoyance, think like Roblox, our younger ones play Roblox together, right? Annoying. Okay. It's not something I'm into. But when Natalie's like, we went to this dance together or this beauty thing, and look at this dress that we created and whatever else. And I'm
look
like,
at my palace I built.
Yeah, exactly. If I genuinely care about her and what she's into, I got to be better about being into what she's into,
what they're really into.
For her, right? And so I think that's been a really big shift for me lately, is meeting them where they are. But that comes back to, we're on the same team, and their success is important to me, but also their happiness.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I want them to want me to be happy. I got to want them to be happy.
And it's what's so important about that, like Huli coming to you and showing her TikToks, and when Izzy comes to me, because I have a makeup girl too. And so it's like, look at how I did, and it looks so natural, and blah, like all the things, right? And I have a girl who is obsessed with American Girl dolls and goes on and on and on, right? But here's the thing about being their person, is when you're their person for the little stuff, you immediately, like by default, are their person for the big stuff. And I'm going to tell you, like, as like, like I have a 12-year-old, there's big stuff. And there's big stuff that Maddie walks through, that I walked through as a kid, that I never told my parents. I never.
Absolutely.
I didn't have that kind of a relationship with my parents, and I didn't trust my parents, and my parents were not my people, because they weren't my friends. And they told me that all the time. I'm not your friend. I'm your this. Right.
Mine too.
And so I grew up. And Maddie now, like, right. And so, like, there is something to be said about being your kid's person. Like, yes, boundaries, yes, leading, yes, consequences, all the things. I'm not saying my kids run the show and set the rules and they're disrespectful and all, like, no, that isn't my household. But like, you can just get that in a way that, I don't know, like honors them and meets them where they are. Like, exactly like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a piece that nobody taught me that, right?
No.
He said, here's this kid, you're on the same team. Second, if you want them to respect your success and your happiness, you should do the same for them. And that doesn't mean, like, this isn't about my kids not having responsibility, right? It's not
No.
about me making everything comfortable for them. We actually are proponents of being uncomfortable. Right?
Uncomfortable.
You can
Yeah.
do hard things. You say
Yeah.
that, and you guys model that more than
All the
anybody that
time.
I know. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do hard things. Like, they're capable of more, especially when they know they are held and supported by us. And that doesn't mean
Yeah.
I do it for them,
Right.
you know?
No, it means that they know that they have somewhere to land though when they fail, and like failing's okay and not getting it right's okay, because like they have somewhere to land. We all need somewhere to land. And so like being your kid's person is like, I feel like it's crucial, honestly,
It's
especially as they get older, you know?